Even the wisest of kings can make mistakes, and Solomon was no exception. Behind his greatness and wisdom, there was a weak point that over time became more evident and brought his reign to the brink of the abyss. In this video, we will explore all the details described in the Bible, from Solomon's ascension to the throne until his final days. I believe this in-depth study deserves your support, so don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to help us spread this content. Solomon, son of King David and Bathsheba, is a notable figure in the scriptures, recognized for his wisdom, wealth, and his fundamental role in the construction of the temple in Jerusalem. His ascension to the throne of Israel occurred in a context of family intrigue. After David's death, his son Adonijah attempted to take the throne, but the prophetic intervention of Nathan and Bathsheba ensured that Solomon, God's chosen one, was crowned king. The divine revelation to David that Solomon would succeed him and build the temple in Jerusalem is recorded in the first book of Chronicles, chapter 22. In this passage, God said to David, "You have shed much blood and fought many wars. You will not build a temple in my honor because you have shed much blood on the ground before me. However, you will have a son who will be a man of peace and quiet. I will save him from all his enemies around him. His name will be Solomon, and I will give peace and quiet to Israel during his reign." Solomon, whose name means peace, began his reign by promoting stability and unity in the kingdom. The characteristic that most distinguished him among the leaders of his time was his extraordinary wisdom. In the early days of his reign, he made a significant covenant with God, a moment that not only demonstrated his wisdom, but also his intention to seek divine guidance in governing. This covenant and its terms are recorded in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 3, verses 3 through 14. The key event occurred at Gibeon, where Solomon offered sacrifices to the Lord. That night, God appeared to him in a dream and asked, "Ask me for what you want me to give you." In response, Solomon expressed his humility and acknowledged the great responsibility of leading the people of Israel. He asked for wisdom to judge and govern with justice, highlighting his complete dependence on God to make wise decisions that would benefit the people of Israel. Solomon's choice of wisdom, rather than personal wealth or success, demonstrated his desire to lead with integrity and justice, reflecting the heart of a wise and God-fearing leader. God's response to his plea was remarkable. God commended Solomon's choice and, in addition to granting him the wisdom he had requested, also promised additional blessings, including riches and honor, unmatched in all of Israel's history. A famous episode that illustrates this wisdom is the trial of two women who were fighting over the motherhood of a child. The story, found in 1 Kings chapter 3 verses 16 to 28, describes how two women, who had given birth at the same time, appeared before Solomon after one of the children died. Both claimed the surviving child as their own. Faced with this impasse, Solomon proposed a surprising solution to resolve the case. Rather than making a hasty decision, Solomon proposed a surprising solution to the impasse between the two women who were fighting over the motherhood of a child. He suggested dividing the child in half, giving half to each. The reaction of both women revealed who the real mother was. The woman who truly loved the child begged that the child not be harmed and suggested that it be given to the other woman. On the other hand, the woman who was not the biological mother agreed to the proposal to divide the child. Solomon's cunning was crucial in identifying the true mother who, willing to give up her son to protect him, demonstrated genuine maternal love. Solomon then ordered that the child be given to her. In addition to his wisdom, Solomon was also known for his great achievements, such as the construction of the temple in Jerusalem. This monumental project not only served as the spiritual center of the kingdom, but also symbolized God's continued presence among the people of Israel. The grandeur of the temple reflected Solomon's administrative ability, as well as the wealth and prosperity of his kingdom. The desire to build a temple for the Lord began with his father, King David, but it was Solomon who brought it to fruition. The Bible describes meticulous details about the materials used, such as cedar from Lebanon for the structure and pure gold for the ornaments, evidencing Solomon's dedication and reverence for God. The chosen location, Mount Moriah, had a profound symbolic meaning, as it was the same place where Abraham demonstrated his faith by being willing to sacrifice his son Isaac. This act of faith and obedience preceded the construction of the temple, highlighting the continuity of the special relationship between God and the people of Israel. Solomon's temple thus became the spiritual and cultural epicenter of Israel, a symbol of unity and worship. Solomon also dedicated himself to establishing international alliances, strengthening commercial and diplomatic relations. A notable example of such relationships was the visit of the Queen of Sheba, who traveled to Jerusalem to test Solomon's wisdom. This encounter is recorded in 1 Kings chapter 10 verses 113 and 2 Chronicles chapter 9 verses 112. Upon arrival, the queen asked her difficult questions, and Solomon answered them all, leaving no doubt unanswered. His impressive caravan, laden with spices, gold, and precious stones, highlighted the diplomatic nature of the encounter. Solomon also established other diplomatic relationships through marriage alliances with princesses from neighboring kingdoms, such as Egypt and Phoenicia. This practice, common at the time, was intended to strengthen alliances and promote peace between the kingdoms. However, throughout his reign, Solomon also made mistakes. Although he was celebrated for his wisdom and accomplishments, his history is also marked by mistakes that eventually had significant consequences for both his reign and the history of Israel. One of Solomon's greatest deviations was his involvement with foreign women, which went against divine instructions. Solomon had many foreign wives, in addition to Pharaoh's daughter, including princesses from neighboring nations, which went against God's law, which prohibited marriages with women who worshipped other gods. These marriages, which initially aimed at political alliances, ended up bringing external cultural and religious influences to Israel. The foreign wives brought their religious practices, which gradually began to affect Solomon in a negative way. He began to tolerate the worship of various idols and to participate in rituals contrary to the exclusive worship of the God of Israel. The culmination of this deviation was the construction of temples and altars for idols in honor of the deities of his wives, an act that directly violated God's commandments. Solomon's apostasy, which involved the construction of these altars, was one of the negative milestones of his reign. The last years of his reign, as described in the first book of Kings, chapters 11 and 12, were marked by a combination of glory and shadow, reflecting the complexity of his life and leadership. As he grew older, Solomon's choices, especially regarding his marriages to foreign women and his acceptance of idol worship, began to negatively impact his reign. God's wrath was manifested when adversaries were raised against him. Jeroboam, a trusted official, rebelled and became a prominent leader who would later lead the northern tribes. Solomon's death, after a reign of 40 years, marked the end of an era of unprecedented peace and prosperity. Although the Bible does not provide details about the exact cause of his death, in the first book of Kings, chapter 11, verses 41 through 43, it is recorded that the rest of Solomon's history, everything he did, and the wisdom he displayed, are recorded in the book of the Acts of the Kings of Israel. After his death, he was buried in the city of David, and his son Rehoboam succeeded him to the throne. Upon Solomon's death, his son Rehoboam assumed the throne, resulting in the division of the kingdom of Israel into two. The northern kingdom came under the leadership of Jeroboam, while the southern kingdom, consisting primarily of the tribes of Judah and Benjamin, was led by Rehoboam. Thus, Solomon's final days were followed by a tumultuous transition to his son, who saw his father's kingdom divided due to the consequences of Solomon's choices. Solomon's story serves as a reminder of the importance of ethical and spiritual decisions, as well as the long-term consequences they can have on the life of a leader and the fate of a nation.